Hello, welcome back to my channel, Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris, and it is time for our astrology of the week ahead. We are talking about December 2nd through December 8th, and I'm just going to be straight with you folks. There's a lot going on this week. There's a lot of shifting tides of the psyche. We have got, we're coming out of the new moon. I'm filming this on the new moon. On that note, you may hear at times that we have a little bit of a soundtrack accompanying us because there's music being recorded in this little cabin that I'm in. And I kind of felt, well, you know what? It's a Sag new moon that we're riding on the tails of, so we'll just roll with it. And so we're coming out of that new moon. We are going to move through this week. We're going to have Saturn square Sun in its exact. So Saturn was square that new moon, the Sun and the moon together there in Sagittarius. But then the Sun is going to come into its exact square with Saturn. We are going to have Mercury retrograde in its exact opposition with Jupiter retrograde. We are going to have Mars station retrograde, and we are going to have Neptune station direct. Not to mention, we're going to have this gorgeous conversation as Ceres, our Earth Mother, is going to move from Capricorn into Aquarius alongside Venus, and we're going to have a conjunction of Venus, Ceres, and Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and they're going to trine Sedna in Gemini. So it's kind of a big week. There's a lot going on. How are you doing? We've been in it. I know that a lot of us have been in it. I have certainly been in it, and we're still in it. That said, I do really think that, especially with the opposition between Mercury and Jupiter this week, with the Sun coming into that exact square of Saturn, with Neptune stationing direct, I think this could also be a week of some illumination, especially if you are someone who kind of found yourself over the past month or so redirected, if you found your plans halted, if you found that there were kind of resistance coming up from different sections, places in life, in yourself, we have had some pretty intense astro weather of the past month or so. And so there could be some loosening. There could be some illumination, but it's illumination that's coming, Mercury is still retrograde. It's coming within some of this kind of retrograde energy, which means that it's coming through reflection. It's coming through the co-creative process of saying, that wasn't the right time. Now may still not be the right time, but we might be able to start glimpsing the path forward a little bit more, or the path sideways, however it's happening for us. But let's move through the week a little bit and see what's happening. So of course, we're going to start this week off literally coming out of the dark moon, literally moving into all of the cosmic conversations that I was just talking about. And so really, the first exact aspect that we're going to have is we're going to come in December 3rd into that square of the Sun at 12 degrees of Sagittarius and Saturn, who's direct at 12 degrees of Pisces. Okay, and here, this is just happening a few days after that new moon, but in the new moon, we're in the dark moon. In the new moon, we're really, asked to be in a place of feeling, regardless of what sign the new moon is in, we're asked to be in a place where we step back from active thinking, where we step back from active planning, where we just kind of feel our way into what is arriving and being with what is arriving, potentially also setting some intentions for the next 2 weeks for the bigger cycles that all of our smaller cycles are part of. And so here we're going to move on December 3rd into the exact square of the Sun in Saturn. And this could really actually give us some insights if we are willing to be really honest about our path, really honest about what we've been shedding, really honest about, getting serious about creating the structures in our lives for spirituality to kind of be in the bone alignment of our psyche, of our life. This is part of what Saturn in Pisces is supporting us to do. And it is, sometimes rigorously asking us to get rid of things, people, situations, places, habits in our lives that aren't going to serve us in 2025, 2026 and beyond. And now we have this moment to maybe kind of have some light shed on the path that is emerging. Okay, now that said, it really is, the square means that there's productive insight to come through a potential challenge, through the ego meeting the co-creative forces that we're always part of and saying, oh, wow, yes, this is a way forward. It's not what I would have thought of on my own, but this is actually potentially way better than what I would have thought of on my own. Because usually what we think of on our own, there's a lot of emotions that are driving us, a lot of unconscious things driving us. And that's where transiting Saturn comes and says, some of that stuff isn't really that useful. This is more useful. So there could be some illuminations along those lines coming. Also, you could be coming into the start and the stop that any square with Saturn can offer. But again, that sun is in Sag, and the sun in Sag wants to expand. It wants to go forward. It wants to adventure through mind, spirit, life. And yet, all of the energy of the new moon, of Mercury being retrograde right now, it really is saying, well, maybe imagine what going forward looks like, but there's still some pieces that have to work out. There's still some pieces that have to fall into place, and that is okay. We don't need to rush forward into anything. When Saturn is talking, we're usually not rushing forward into anything. So that's how we're starting this week off on the 3rd. And then we're going to come into, all week, the 2nd, the 3rd, and we're building into that opposition of Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius and Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. They are in the signs of each other's rulers. So this is significant. We've got Mercury, who's ruled by Gemini, and we've got Jupiter, who's ruled by Sagittarius. And we've got Mercury in Sag and Jupiter in Gemini. And, there is really an opportunity for insight, for gifts during this opposition. It's again similar to that kind of square with Saturn if we are listening. If we're not listening, if we're just resisting life, if we are just insisting that we can do everything on our own, figure it out, have the plan, if ego is really acting up, right? Then this opposition can absolutely come into some start-stop, to a halt, to confusion. Absolutely, regardless, this can be a little bit of mental exhaustion, so we really might want to slow down. And the slowdown is so important. The slowdown is important when Saturn's speaking. It's important in an opposition like this. Remember, Jupiter is retrograde, so that expansive energy, that just like go for it abundance that we tend to associate with Jupiter, that is slowed down. We are being asked to be in a state of reflection. And so when we slow down, that is when the magical insights can occur. When we get into more of that meditative, reflective place, and we do want to be there, especially in the beginning of this week, we want to move slowly. That is when we might actually receive some gifts. We might receive some gifts that only a retrograde can give, because we have been forced to slow down, because we were forced out of a Zoom meeting and now we have a half an hour and we can't get in. It's like, oh my gosh, but now I can do this, or now I can see this, or now I can journal and I can, it's like, or, oh, I can kind of look at this anger that's coming up because I couldn't get into that Zoom meeting. And now when I journal with that and then I see there's something underneath, and now, holy smokes, I'm in a gorgeous reflection all of a sudden. It's like following the threads as they emerge and allowing what is present to show us some insights. And, you might have plans that were redirected, are being redirected. We might just be in a state of uncertainty about something in our lives. There might be some big uncertainties in our collective lives. Of course, there are these very big uncertainties. And yet in your own personal journey, working with the self-inquiry process that archetypal astrology really opens a path for, what might emerge if you slow down and see how maybe a redirection is a gift, how maybe not knowing isn't the end of the world, and there is a way to be present and actually find abundance in that slow down presence. Because this is Jupiter, this is Mercury and Sag, but also we don't have all the pieces yet. And just acknowledging that we don't have all the pieces yet, and that is how it is. And therefore, instead of kind of being angry or resentful that we don't have all those pieces, just recognizing that the mosaic hasn't taken shape yet. If the mosaic hasn't taken shape, then we're not supposed to have all those pieces. And this is exactly where we need to be. And just journeying with that in this moment, in this week. Sometimes easier said than done, but these are the intentions that we can set as we move through this week. And then moving, so again, that exact opposition between Jupiter and Mercury is on the 4th. And then we are going to have this lovely conversation happening with Ceres, our Earth Mother. Now, Ceres has been in Capricorn since February of this year, of 2024. And she is about to switch signs. She is switching signs this week. So she's going to switch into Aquarius on the 7th. Okay. But she's going to come on December 4th to the 29th degree of Capricorn. So from the 4th through the 7th this week, we have got Ceres at that final degree of Capricorn, that final exhale of that sign that we just had Pluto make its mighty departure from. And now the Earth Mother comes, and it's almost like, this is Ceres. Like, she controls the harvest. She controls the bounty of the nurturing nutrients that nature provides. She helps us find that nurture. And there might be some nurture. There might be some seeds of wisdom. Ceres, the Earth Mother, and firstly, just in Capricorn, is so wise. And at that final degree where there's a little bit of rubble from those tectonic plates of psyche shifting as Pluto moved into Aquarius, Ceres comes and she might show us some of the wisdom. Some of, that might be wisdom that comes from some of the grief that might still be present. That might be just coming from whatever situation we've been moving on that we kind of aligned with that Pluto and Aquarius shift for ourselves. Ceres is there, and remember that she is the nurturer. Now, she is also the mother that rages when Persephone disappears and goes into the underground. She is Mama Bear, and she has the whole spectrum. She is not a Hollywood gendered stereotype of the mother who only has this kind of slim part of her identity, which is only the doting, caring, wonderful woman. She is also the full spectrum woman who has her rage and she has her struggles. Ceres is the mothering archetype. And so just knowing that there's a lot of energy with Ceres, because she is shifting just after Pluto has shifted, and she's going to, of course, come in and conjunct Pluto. And she's going to be at that 29th degree this week, and then Venus is working her way up, and she's actually going to pass Ceres and enter Aquarius first, and that's going to happen on December 6th. Okay, so Venus is going to move in and conjunct Pluto on the 6th, and then on the 7th, we're going to have Ceres enter Aquarius, and we're going to have Ceres conjunct Venus, conjunct Pluto, and they're all going to be trine Sedna. Sedna, who is retrograde and is at 0 degrees of Gemini. So we've got this air trine. Just, it's a wonderful time, the 7th, the 8th, to journal. It's a wonderful time to really feel in what is transforming in your life. We are in this exact trine of Pluto and Sedna, which is a very powerful time for transformation, especially for a transformative healing of archetypal wounds. I will link, I made a workbook especially about this kind of transformative period for working with archetypal wounds. I find working with the language of archetypal wounds, using archetypal and evolutionary astrology can be really healing because it allows trauma to be present, but in a way that is absolutely survivor-centered and is allowing the archetypes to bring us into what Sedna and Pluto show are the deep wisdoms of trauma. And now we have this very personal Ceres and Venus, divine feminine energy coming into that 0 degree of Aquarius. This is, sharp insights about our healing, sharp insights about what our deepest values that align to our radical self. That healing of the archetypal wounds, this is a moment when it's all about the birthing of our radical self. And we know that because Pluto just entered Aquarius, and this is for 20 years. So this birthing of the radical self, but with this divine feminine energy of Ceres and Venus coming together. And I am sorry that my dog is whining and that you're hearing Gus right now. But so there's this beautiful divine feminine energy, that is just accompanying us in the birthing of this radical selves. And so just take some time to pause with that and be with that at the end of this week. And we have some 2 major energy shifts in that we have on December 6th, so that same day that Venus is moving into Aquarius, we have got our Mars stationing retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo. Okay, so again, knowing that this is a week in which we have 2 major shifts coming. And so whenever we have a planet that's shifting from its direct to retrograde, especially the day before, so we're looking at the 5th, we're looking at the 4th, then on that day of the 6th, and then the couple days after, it is literally the gears grinding. And so this is Mars. This is our active drive. And Mars has been in Leo. And we know that Mars has got more to learn about Leo. So it's going to go retrograde. And then it's got a lot more to learn about our active rest, our active nurture, our active surrender of Mars in Cancer. I'm looking forward to that journey, which is going to carry us into April. Okay, Mars is going to be retrograde into April. And then we're going to be working with it moving forward in Cancer and back into Leo. And so as we move through this week, knowing that, our energy might be waning a little bit this week, because we also have Neptune stationing direct, and that's a major shift of a psyche consciousness. And that shift is coming on the 7th, and that is happening at the 27th degree of Pisces. So we have a major shift, Neptune stationing direct, approaching the final degree of the zodiac in Pisces. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. Now, on the one hand, Neptune working with our psyches and bodies, and in the final degree of Pisces, this is incredible work for the imagination, for intuition, for dreams, for taking us into just other modes of knowing that are guided by the intuition, that are guided by emotion and feeling, that are really showing the depths that intuition can shine light on, that, the cognitive driven rationality of cognitively determined understanding can't even access. And so on the one hand, there's that richness, and it's going direct, and there's a lot of lovely energy with that. And especially during that shift, it's also everything beyond the day-to-day, so like when we got to show up at a certain time, or we've got boxes to check off, or we have to think in that very cognitively determined, structured way of thinking and filling out forms or showing up at work, well, that can be a little confusing for the big Neptune energy, okay? So we've got these 2 shifts happening at the same time, but they're also accompanied by that lovely energy of Venus entering Aquarius, Ceres entering Aquarius. There is some deep transformative healing of those archetypal wounds going on this week as we have these major kind of energy shifts, drive shifts, and just, again, as I kind of started off by talking in terms of the square with Saturn, the opposition of Mercury and Jupiter, we might need to move a bit slowly, especially as Mars stations retrograde towards the end of this week, as Neptune stations direct. Our emotions might be a little heightened. So especially if you are feeling that, pulling back instead of reacting, recognizing in ourselves that we're a little heightened, and just kind of, okay, I'm going for a walk. Okay, I'm going to get a tea and journal. I'm I'm going with my book, just pulling back because there's a lot. But there's also a lot of opportunity for shifting directions, for illuminations that come, that are like allowing us to say, yes, it is okay. I'm going to shift directions. It is okay. This massive change is happening and I am ready for it, because you are ready for it. And there we are through this week. I'm sending lots of love as always, and I'll see you soon. Be well.